in the buff with bottles.
In the birthday suit, the
It
old
is a
birthday suit.
it's an awkward picture to think about holding bottles and standing on a scale naked, but welcome, folks, to a sprint, the first sprint short course episode of Coaches on Couches.
Bing! Slouches.
Yeah, so we're
I need to
experimenting.
get a couch up here, man. I got to put a couch up here.
You need to, you do need a couch. You got
Got false advertising going on here.
1990s Texas oil man's chair there.
You can see my back sweat stains.
It's gross, man.
Anyway, Dale, this is a sprint, man. We got to get rolling.
Yeah, I've got a timer going. So we're experimenting with doing some shorter episodes. We're going to try to keep them under 15 minutes total. No shout outs, no advertisements, one topic, straight to the point. Here we go. So today's topic, we're talking about sweat rate testing. So the importance, the whys, the hows of sweat rate testing. So we're going to get that all done in under 15 minutes. So here we go. What is sweat rate testing, Funson?
Sweat rate testing is where you try to get a measure for how much fluid loss you are undergoing during a certain period of time while exercising. So there's a lot of things that can impact that, environmental stuff that can impact it, the intensity with which you're going. But what we're trying to do is get a feel for how much fluid are you losing through sweat, so that we better know how to incorporate hydration into our plans.
Yeah. So this is basically one half of the hydration puzzle. You've got sweat rate, and then you have your sweat sodium concentration. So what's going out electrolyte wise, what's going out fluid wise. There's a couple other little bits to the puzzle. Over the years we've learned, there's certain medications that can affect hydration and stuff like that. But for the most part, you're looking at sweat sodium concentration and sweat rate. And so we're getting the amount of fluid that is leaving the body during exercise. Now, what affects your sweat rate? You've got temperature, you've got humidity, you've got your clothing, intensity of exercise, your duration to some extent can increase or decrease your sweat rate. There's
how well adapted you are to the conditions you're exercising in.
Yeah, so there's all these other factors that play into your sweat rate, and this is like the multiplier. So your sweat sodium concentration can be anywhere from 250 to 2,000 milligrams per liter. Your sweat rate can be anywhere from a half a liter to some folks have been measured to have over 4 liters an hour of sweat rate. So these are really important metrics to have down when you're dialing in your hydration strategy. So
yeah, the whole thing here is we want it customized to you. It's not like, hey, my friend drinks 1 bottle per hour. That's my metric, regardless of temperature and intensity. So long as I'm drinking 1 bottle per hour, I'm okay. That is not the case with this. You need to get it customized to you, and we're going to help you do that.
Yeah. So,
or one half of that, rather.
Right. So Brian, how often would you test your sweat rate?
I test mine regularly. I mean, it's a super easy thing to do, but definitely you want to be testing it anytime you're undergoing like a change in environmental factors. So if you're going from indoors to outdoors, or outdoors to doing heavy stuff indoors, cold environment to hot environment, and then testing under a different variety of intensity levels. And it's one of those that fuel for it. you sort of know about where you need to be depending on how hard you're going to be going, how long you're going to be out there, and what that day's conditions are. So just get used to doing it a lot early, and then after that, you're going to have a pretty dang good feel for it.
Yeah, I mean the big thing there is just changing when testing it when the factors change. I always tell people too, like in those last 4 weeks prior to a goal event, make sure you're testing it pretty regularly. Always, for triathletes and runners, I always recommend testing it on the run, because generally your sweat rate's going to be a bit higher on the run with less cooling with the air flow and stuff like that. So, if
you're someone that's only going to do, oh, go ahead. I'm talking over here.
I was just saying, so if you fall into that category of triathlete or runner, make sure you're doing it obviously on the run and in the conditions that you are closest to what you're going to be racing in, because testing indoor with air conditioning and a fan and all this stuff is not going to reflect what you are going to sweat outside in humid conditions on race day.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. And you'll even see a big difference indoors with a fan and AC versus indoors with no airflow. I mean, you'll see a drastic difference in this. I'll add to that what I was going to say when I was talking over you there is if you're only going to do it like once every few months, you'll find out it's super easy to do. So you should be doing it more than that. But if you're going to do it just once every couple of months, do it on your higher intensity day. So do it when you're going to be losing the most, because that's going to give you a much better feeling for kind of the top end of how much you should be replacing fluid loss.
Yeah, definitely intensity and as close to the conditions as your race is going to be. All right, yep. So let's jump into the how. How do we test sweat rate? So there's a lot of different, there's ways you can do it. You can make it as complicated as you want, but we tend to try to keep things as simple as possible. So our major method is you go out and make sure you're doing this, like Brian said, either an intense hour-long session to make it really simple, or if you're going to do it on a longer session, you're just going to have a lot more to keep track of. But if you do it on a 1 hour session with intensity, you're going to fill up your bottles that you're going to take with you during the session, and then you are going to, without clothing on, so in the buff with bottles.
In the birthday suit, the old birthday suit.
It's an awkward picture to think about holding bottles and standing on a scale naked, but you're going to stand on the scale with no clothes on, with your bottles full.
No clothes on.
And then do
bottles
your session.
Topped off.
Do your session, drink normally, and then weigh yourself again. No clothes, dry off when you get back. No clothes, but hold your bottles again. And so that will take into consideration what you've lost and what you've drank. So we're looking for the amount of fluid lost in a 1 hour session.
Yeah.
So whatever your weight difference is, that's essentially your sweat rate per hour if you did an hour session. Now these aren't exact measurements, but we're not trying to hit a bullseye here. We're just trying to hit the barn door. So
yeah, exactly.
So
for every 2 pounds lost in an hour, you're looking at 1 liter per hour, roughly 1 liter, like Dale said, not exact, but you're looking at roughly 1 liter per hour. And don't be surprised if you see something extreme. Dale and I can both lose up towards 3 liters per hour when it's high humidity, high temps, and we're going hard. So you can put out, that's 6 pounds per hour of fluid loss.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen it multiple times. I think I average closer to like 2.25, 2.5, but in the really high heat, it's not that hard. Especially if you make a mistake with clothing or something like that to lose, you just picked a little bit heavier jersey and you can sweat out a little bit more every hour.
For sure.
So,
But
I mean,
that's a
that's
super easy thing to do, right? Like it's super easy to hop on a scale with your bottles, go and exercise, hop off the scale, or hop back on the scale rather, with the now emptier or more empty bottles, and you now have a ballpark. And if it's an extreme gap, if you lost a lot, not only do you now have a better feel for what your sweat rate was, but now well, crap, I might be needing to rehydrate quite a bit more than I initially thought,
yeah.
to help prevent you having consecutive days where you're just getting more and more dehydrated.
And for those of you who've been tested, your sweat sodium's been tested. If you have a lower end sweat sodium, but you have a really high end sweat rate, that's a trigger that you're going to need to increase the sodium in your drinks regardless, because there's always going to be that crossover point where you can't physically drink as much as you're losing. So you're going to be losing tons of fluid and more sodium than you realized. So we need to kind of buffer the deficit there a little bit more. That's pretty much the protocol. Again, if you're doing it in a longer session, that's fine, but you're just going to have to account more for the bottles that you're drinking. So if you take 2 and you drink more than 2, you're going to have to then kind of factor in the weight of that bottle and what you drank out of it. It just becomes a lot more complicated. So we keep
and the
simple.
Food you eat, and food you ate, if you use the bathroom on a little nature break along the way, that's something you got to factor in. So it makes it definitely more confusing.
For sure.
But I still have all my athletes, especially when possible, way before and after, even if it's not with the bottles, even just weighing before and after from a rehydration standpoint is huge.
Yeah,
absolutely. On those long days, especially.
Yeah, and it can tell you, exactly. It can tell you if you need to be super diligent about post-exercise rehydration, especially if you're going to plan on doing another session like within 24 hours, or even the next. What happens a lot is people get on their long ride, they get home at noon or 11 or whatever, and then they don't rehydrate well, and then they are planning on doing another session the next morning or something like that. And so you've had less than 24 hours to try to rehydrate. You didn't do such a good job at it, and then the quality of the next session suffers. So.
Oh yeah, big time.
So that's pretty much it. So
What's the timer say, Dale? Where are we at on the timer?
We got 3 minutes left. I think we should just call it and start this off strong.
I think we go with some knock-knock jokes. So let's conclude with our best knock-knock joke. Not really. So, cool. Well, that was easy.
Yeah, so these sprints, keep an eye out for more of them. It might be both of us. It might be one of us. But we're going to try to do some more of them to try to get you some more information as quickly as possible. So we appreciate you guys.
If you have topics, put those in the comments or shoot us an email or message. You can find us. So let us know if you have a topic you want us to cover that we can knock out, in a 10, 15 minute chat. We're more than happy to.
For sure. All right. We appreciate you guys hanging out, listening, watching. We'll catch you guys next time. Adios.
Peace.